from Mayra Ramirez, which was cancelled out in spectacular style from Alba Virgino on 64 minutes. And then an unfortunate own goal from Yui Hasegawa means that Chelsea win the Women's League Cup for the third time in their history. Final thoughts from Karen Bardsley.
Well, it's such a cruel way to lose this game with an own goal from Yui Hasegawa, but really exciting goal from Alba Virgino. Just kind of pulled the game back within reach, and there was so much to be excited about off the back of the first half performance from City. But yeah, I think a very composed professional performance to see the game out from Chelsea, and congratulations to them. But you know, lots of positives to take away from this game for City as you face Chelsea 3 more times in very, very quick succession.
Thanks for your contributions today, Karen. Heartbreak for Manchester City, for Nick Cushion and his players, but plenty to aim at. They are still alive in the Women's FA Cup and the Champions League, and the race for Champions League qualification is still on. It just wasn't to be today. It has finished. Chelsea 2, Manchester City 1. Let's send you back to the studio.
Yes, thank you very much. Full-time Manchester City 2-1 losers in the end. It just wasn't meant to be today, was it, Toni?
It wasn't, but there's no shame in the result or the performance. I think obviously Nick only coming in last minute, the team performed really well, had chances. You know, the result could have went either way if City took them chances. Gutted for the girls because it is a missed opportunity to win the trophy, but positive signs going into a big few weeks.
Yeah, a big few weeks which involve Chelsea as well. They get to play Chelsea 3 more times quite quickly. What better way to sort of get over a defeat, albeit in a cup final, than face the team that just beat you in one? Was that extra motivation for them heading into the game on Wednesday?
Yeah, with it being Champions League as well, I think that adds a little bit of spice. But I mean, for the women, it's obviously disappointing. I think, you know, to lose a game on our own goal as well, which was just unfortunate. Obviously, just trying to clear it just takes a bounce. I mean, I think we spoke about the pitch before we came on air. And I think it hasn't took a great bounce, and it's just unfortunate. But yeah, as Toni said, I mean, it's Nick's come in, but the way that they performed, I think given the fact of people would have thought before the game it would have been, I wouldn't say a comfortable win for Chelsea, but I think they wouldn't have seen that performance by Manchester City, because I thought Man City were excellent today and were just unfortunate in the end.
Yeah, you could argue that they were the better side. If we look at the 2 goals they've conceded, they were super unfortunate. Like Steve just said, with the own goal, the first goal as well was a real strike of luck as well.
Sometimes in finals, though, you need that bit of luck, and unfortunately today the luck was on Chelsea's side. You know, both of the goals, you know, you see it bounce, ricochets off the goalkeeper, great save by Yamashita for the first one, and then ricochets back into Ramirez's footpath, and then you've got the second goal, and Hasegawa, it's, you know, what a player she's been as well. It's just so unfortunate. She's tried to clear, as we said, the pitch isn't great, but yeah, just, you know, you don't want to lose a final anyway, but in that manner you don't want to. But the girls really need to keep their heads held high, because I do think it was a really good performance overall. It was,
and there was a fantastic equaliser in there as well from Zagino, a great strike, and caught the keeper off guard, probably a lot of bodies in a way, but a great performance from her.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we spoke about the chance in the first half that she had, which is just unlucky with. But this one, she's carried the ball, she's turned well, received it, ran out the defence. And then just takes it to the right-hand side and hits it with good power. Yes, I think there's bodies in front, and the goalkeeper, I suppose, would be a little bit disappointed, but still, you know, you take that and it's a great finish, 1-1, you're in the game. And then there's another chance straight afterwards as well for Bunny Shaw, but I think the goalkeeper kind of redeemed herself with that one, because she came out super quick and smothered the chance.
Yeah, it just wasn't meant to be for our women's team in the League Cup final today. Congratulations to them for a great journey in the Cup. Still a lot to play for, but our attention now switches to the City in the Community Etihad Stadium, as we can see our arrivals of our Manchester City men's team for the game against Brighton. Starting with, of course, the man himself, Pep Guardiola, and we can reveal the team which is on the screen for you now. So in goal is Stefan Ortega, then it's a start for Rico Lewis, Kushinov, our captain Ruben Diaz, Josko Vardiol, Nico, Gundogan, Savinho, Omar Marmoush, Jeremy Doku and Erling Haaland. The substitutes for Man City are Mateo Kovacic, Jack Grealish, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Victor Heisz, Mateus Nunes, Scott Carson, Phil Phil Foden, and James McAtee, who we see coming off the bus right now, as well as the rest of the first team. Today is a City in the Community takeover, so it's with great pleasure to say we're at the City in the Community Etihad Stadium, and of course you might have just caught a glimpse of some of them amazing drawings done by some of our City in the Community participants as we look at Phil Foden and Jack Grealish coming off calm as ever at our West reception for today's game. Now, we've just seen the team, and I'm joined of course still with Steve Howey and Toni Duggan. 4 changes from Forest, expecting a reaction of course. Ortega, Lewis, Gundogan and Marmouche in the starting 11.
Yeah, I mean, it's I suppose in some ways it's no surprise that the manager's made changes, but having said that, wouldn't have been no surprise if he hadn't. But you know, whether he's obviously spoke to players, there's been a couple of niggles and whatnot. Probably just want to freshen things up, but he knows and the players knows that this is a pivotal game. I think he's come out and sort of said that these next games, or from now to the end of the season, the cup finals. You know, so for Pep to come out and say that, we all obviously clearly know he means business. So he's picking a team which he wants to get a positive result. It'll be a tough game against Brighton. They're in good form. But when you look at that City team, it's a team that could beat any team.
And that was a shirt that's worth a lot of money with Kevin De Bruyne just signing that as we walk in. We look at Jeremy Doku, Josko Vardiel as well. When you're playing at the Etihad Stadium, Tony, and you're playing in front of your fans and you're playing a team that are 1 point behind you in the Premier League, how important is the crowd in situations like this?
Oh, it's massive. You know, they need the home support behind them. They've been through a difficult period of late throughout the season, to be honest, but in them moments, that's when you really draw upon your home crowd, and it's vitally important for them today. You know, it's a massive game. Manchester City need to be and should be in the Champions League next season, and that's why Pep's saying, you know, every game's a cup final now, because this is where this club belongs.
Yeah, and there's 2 competitions. Manchester City are still fighting in the FA Cup, still to come, but all eyes on getting in the top 5. It's the top 5 in the Premier League this year, and based on how well English clubs have done in European competitions, an added boost.
Yeah, but as I'd said, I think earlier on the show, before we did the women's game, I think City will finish at least 3rd, 4th. You know, I don't think it will be a case of just scraping in there. I think they've got the players, they've got the quality, just to sort of push on between now and the end of the season.
Now, talking about the Etihad Stadium, or the City in the Community Etihad Stadium, it's been rebranded for today. 8 times at home, Manchester City have won. There's only 1 team in the Premier League who are the current leaders of the Premier League. We've got a better home record. It's been a tough season, and sometimes it's a bit difficult to sort of realise how good we are at home.
Yeah, it's a fortress, and I think most clubs, if you'd ask anyone, women's game, men's game, you want to make your home stadium a fortress. You don't want teams coming here and taking the 3 points off you. And it'll be no different today against a tough Brighton team who, you know, play some lovely football, obviously beat City earlier in the year. So yeah, it's a massive game today, but I'm sure the City fans will get behind the club as they always do, and, you know, push the players. But also, speaking from earlier, you look at that City bench as well. You know, who'd have thought that De Bruyne, Foden, Grealish, Bernardo Silva would be on the bench? And I think Pep's just shaking it up a little bit, just saying, you know, like, seeing who's finding the form and, you know, seeing what players can perform to the level, because losing 1-0 to Notts Forest is just not really acceptable at Manchester City's level.
They've had a week to prepare for this game, which is rare, but Pep said in his press conference they deserve to be sat at home watching the Champions League with a glass of wine, so to speak. No midweek games unless it's the Premier League. How important is that they've got time on the training pitch?
It's nice that you've got that time off, but I can guarantee you they would have preferred not to have been at home, having, you know, that time watching the TV. That have certainly preferred to be on the pitch playing in that tournament. Everybody wants to, but obviously it is what it is. So I'm sure the training sessions and what time they've been training and all that kind of thing have been altered for the lads to get a maximum kind of rest and sort of recuperation, but also making sure that when needed, the sessions were intense as well, just to get that, you know, everything going. So of course they've had a good week to prepare for this, and it is going to be a tough game. I think one of the stats, I could be wrong, but I think one of the stats is since they've played at the Etihad against Brighton haven't gotten anything. So let's hope that continues today.
I also came with a stat for the Women's League Cup final. It didn't go
happen,
quite well, so let's hope. Absolutely. I mean, looking at City's fixtures, they've still got Fulham, Villa and Bournemouth to play, which are 3 teams, and of course Brighton today, which are 3 teams that have done really, really well. Do you think City will relish games against these teams?
I think they find it difficult against them teams, if I'm being honest. I think, you know, games where they're expected to win, they've kind of struggled, and I think the patch that City are going through at the minute, or the teams are getting confidence from that, you know, they're not as fearless of City because of the results of late. So yeah, normally expecting City to take all 3 points in each of them games, but just the way things have been of late, I think they'll be a little bit more difficult than in previous years.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking at that starting lineup as well. A start for Ortega. Edison's not fully fit. Rico, Lewis, Kushinov, quite a few young players in the back four.
Yeah, but I mean that bodes well for the future as well. I mean, I think if you've got young players in now, then it's brilliant. I mean, we all know Pep's very, very good at bringing players on, but also recruiting very, very good players. I mean, it just seems as though this season's kind of a transitional period. He has brought in some new faces. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the summer as well, with regards to players possibly out and other players possibly in. But yeah, I mean, it happens at every club. You have your spell, and then it kind of just, you know, things happen, and then you come again, eventually come again. I'm sure they will.
I mean, if this is a bad spell, we're still well in the chance of getting to the Champions League.
Yeah, it's not a bad spell.
Yeah,
it
shows how far the club has come. We've had some interesting runs. During that run of defeats was the game against Brighton, where we ended up losing 2-1. Brighton will gain a lot of confidence from that, won't they?
Oh, of course they will. As I said before, it's kind of this year that teams have kind of seen other teams getting results and thinking, yeah, we can do that as well. And I think teams have learned how to play against City. You know, City have struggled when teams have sat in, made a block and hit them on the counter, left spaces in behind. And I think that's what teams are coming here to do. And I think today will be no different, but Brighton are actually good at playing through the ranks, playing through the thirds, and yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great match-up today, but City need these 3 points.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we head pitchside, we're losing one of our guests, unfortunately, because she can't stay for the whole show, but we had the pleasure of you joining us for the League Cup final and for the start list. Thank you so much.
Nobody.
You're going to be back very, very soon for a huge WSL game, so we'll see you there. But Tony will be heading off, but we're going to be heading to pitchside right now to speak to Ali and Andy, who will react to both teams.
Yeah, welcome to Pitchside, where with me is former City captain and my co-commentator this afternoon, Andy Morrison. Andy, as I always say, it's your first question. We've had a chance to digest the team. What are your overall thoughts about who's been selected?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy with Doku and Savinio starting at the minute, you know, because I think it stretches the opposition. You know, it'll create spaces for what is normally our 10s to play in. And, you know, they've been very, very good of late, and you know, for me, the 2 outstanding wide men in the football at the minute. So yeah, there's it's exciting.
And obviously it looks as though Marmoush will be playing in the hole behind. Do you see that relationship developing now between him and Haaland?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I mean, I think it goes into a 3-4-3. It could even be a diamond 3 with the shape that they're looking at. I'm thinking that you know, Rico's going to go into midfield, you know, just to give that extra kind of balance, and then, but I think Marmoush at times could be the highest up the pitch, you know, so almost a 4-4-2. So we never know how it's going to pan out, but I'm pretty sure that Doku and Savinio will occupy them wide areas.
Before we come to today, what's your reflection on last week? Because for long periods, City appeared in control of that game.
Well, we've been in control of a lot of games, Ali. Me and you have done a lot of games this season where we've been so, especially in the first half, you know, run all over teams without creating too much last week. You know, we just lacked a bit of creativity. And, you know, when it's, as you already said, Ali, it's difficult to play against that deep block to find spaces. You know, and every time they go deeper and deeper, they're creating space in behind your back line where, you know, that's what Forest have been the success story this season, is the way they've managed to exploit the teams on the transition. And, you know, although they didn't really expose us, there were still points in the game where you just felt, you know, we were a little bit vulnerable at times on the turnover.
OK, well, let's come to today, to Brighton, and I'll give you the lineup for today. This is the Brighton team. Verbruggen, Webster, João Pedro, Georgina Rutter, Yakumba Minte, Carlos Baleba, Karu Mitoma, Diego Gomez, Jean-Paul Van Hecke, Purvis Estupinian and Jack Hinshelwood. I think that's one change from the side who beat Fulham late on, it has to be said, last week for 6 victories in a row in all competitions. Irony upon irony, it's 6 wins off the back of their 7-0 defeat at Nottingham Forest, which tells you that teams can react, and they clearly have done.
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't know that. I mean, I remember seeing that result thinking how strange it was. But, you know, great credit to them for that reaction to come back and go on to that run of games that they're on at the minute. You know, we spoke earlier, Ali, about the stats here are incredible. You know, in 14 games, 12 victories and 2 draws. So you'd say if the best City turn up and they're at the very best version of them, you know, it's going to be a tough afternoon for Brighton, but they've got threats in that team. I'm a huge admirer of Mitoma. I have been now for 2 or 3 years, and I thought, you know, I really like Savini on Doku, but Mitoma's another player that really excites me in one-on-one situation. He always wants to take the defender on and create something. And I think as strikers, I think you can make your runs off that. When you know he's getting the ball, he's going to be positive. So then obviously your Pedros and all that can burst into the box, midfielders can come up behind it and compress the opposition in. So it's predictable in your play, and they're a very good outfit.
When you listen to Pep Guardiola, he talks about how the levels have been raised in the Premier League, how teams have, from mid-table, have now become Champions League contenders. Brighton, one of those. What in particular is it about them, you think, that's given them this platform to maybe assault and get into that top 4?
Well, I think it's a continuation of the last few years, Ali. You know, it's not like one that's come out of like what Forest have done. Yeah. You know, they've always been there or thereabouts. You think they're going to break into that top 5 and 6, and they've always been overachieving. So I think they probably are where, I mean, and there's a lot of investment. People forget that. A lot of investment from Brighton, you know, over the last couple of years. So they probably are where they should be, rather than overachieving. But, you know, you're right in what you say, the levels have gone up, but also not just the levels, the knowledge of the top teams and how they play. Teams are suffocating the spaces a lot more. We used to talk about City's 10s finding those half spaces. They're not half spaces anymore. They're quarter spaces. It's so difficult to break that down. And then, as I said earlier, what you're doing, the more you push on, the more you kind of ask questions of the opposition, you're leaving yourself. And then that focus. And I think the best defender we've got is Diaz, in actually communicating with the players around her and making sure that we're not exposed when we're in possession. That's what I've been really impressed with him.
So what are you thinking today?
I'm going to stick my chest out, Ali, and you know me, I'm going to go 3-1.
OK, 3-1, sounds good. So there's the thoughts of Andy Morrison. He's co-commentator with me today. Make sure you download the app and we'll describe the action from start to finish. But for now, it's back to FG.
Thank you very much, Ali. It is back to FG. It's also back to a very, very special guest alongside another special guest, Steve Howey. We are joined by Rio from City in the Community. Of course, today is the City in the Community takeover. We're here at the City in the Community Etihad Stadium, and Rio is one of the participants. So let me just get this straight then. So you're in the studio, from what I'm reading, because by being one of the City in the Community participants, you have won a chance to be as part of the MatchDay Live panel. Well, welcome. How are you feeling?
Great. How are you?
All right, mate. Take a look around you. We're at the City in the Community Etihad Stadium.
Yeah, amazing.
Feeling good to be here.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, recently, you've taken part in quite a few things across City channels. You might have seen this man's face. You played Mario Kart against some of the Manchester City players before.
Yeah.
Who did you play Mario Kart
I played with Phil Foden, Josko Gvardiol, Rico Lewis and James McCarthy.
So, Steve, for a bit of context, Rio's part of City in the Community's brand new esports programme with Oldham College, okay?
Yeah.
And he gets the opportunity to do amazing stuff like this just by being part of the programme. How cool is that?
It's absolutely amazing. I mean, did you beat them?
Yeah.
Did you win?
Yeah.
All of them?
I was on the same team as Foden and McAtee, and we did a 3 versus 3, and well, as you can tell, they're wearing turkey hats because they lost.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the winner's side.
That's the winner's side.
So he was with Phil and James. Phil was very good, by the way, and so was James, and so were you. And unfortunately for the other guys, wearing turkey hats was one of the forfeits. That video is across Manchester City channels. You can see this man on YouTube as well. Let's talk then about what you're learning as part of this esports programme. What does it entail?
We've done a lot about mainly like branding in esports, so how you can link with other brands, you know, collaborators and stuff like that, and how City have worked with Puma, can we do stuff like that? And we've been making our own brands and stuff, and we've learned about the history of esports, how it all started and how the money's gone into it.
Mate, coming from a position of starting in the esports world, to have an esports programme available is absolutely incredible. It's given an opportunity for the younger generation to get into that world. What's it like for you seeing esports being brought up so much?
In all fair, I'm kind of one of these old-fashioned, old-school people where you're talking about certain things and I just literally have not got a clue what they are. But I mean, when the little bit that I do understand, I mean, obviously the opportunities. I mean, just look what we've just been watching there. I mean, I think it's absolutely fabulous for people to get into and make a career out of.
Yeah. So when did you find out you were going to be on MatchDay Live?
Well, I found out earlier this week. They said that I'm going to be coming up and doing an interview with you. And then it was Thursday when they said, and it's going to be on MatchDay Live, and I was buzzing.
So you said you were buzzing, right? So what type of career path do you want to take, and how do you think the City in the Community initiative is going to help you with that?
Well, I'm looking to do media and content creating and stuff like this, just interviewing people, because I love meeting new people, I love going around the world, and obviously City do it with you, so I'm hoping that I can get into the same thing.
Yeah, mate, why not? Me and Rio on tour, Rio and Steve Howey. Fancy a trip away?
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's just me and Rio.
Okay, well, yeah, he's taking my job. That's fine. You can have it.
because
You're brilliant at what you do.
well.
You are right.
Yeah.
So I mean, let's talk about City in the Community then. Of course, it's such an amazing initiative. Of course, I'm wearing the City in the Community hoodie, by the way, which was it's actually worn by Pep in the press conference yesterday.
Ooh,
yeah,
nice.
So it's worth quite a bit, this one. We might have to auction that one off. But yeah, let's talk about the City in the Community as a whole. What's your favourite thing about?
I just love like all the charity foundation and getting out in the community. Not a lot of other clubs go out and do stuff with the fans and just get out there. So I like that they're always active in the community and always having something going for them.
You can see on the screen right now, you can enter the CITC prize draw at mancity.com/CITC prize draw. I've got some of the prizes here on the screen. Listen to this one, Steve. This is class. We'll be entering this together. All right, you get experiences. So you get a chance to train at the City Football Academy with a +1. Me and Rio when I win that. A team photo experience at a home match here at the Etihad Stadium. And all you've got to do is scan a QR code or go to mancity.com/CITC prize draw. There's the QR code on the screen. Get involved. It's £5 to enter a draw like that. The proceeds go to an amazing cause. Let's try and raise loads of money for City in the Community and the great work they do. Steve, let's talk about City in the Community. They are an absolutely amazing initiative and they have been going for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the benefits is for all to see. I mean, but it's just non-stop from there. It's still trying to do better, still trying to do more. And I think the people that have kind of benefited from that is absolutely huge. And you've got to take your hat off to Manchester City for doing that kind of stuff. It is incredible.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to be a part of this initiative. It's a pleasure to have you here as well. What's the rest of your day looking like?
Well, hopefully. I accidentally left my tickets at home, but hopefully we're going to get seats here to watch the rest of the game.
You're in the stadium now, Rio. You're all right.
I know, but I was given tickets at some point and managed to leave them in my bag.
Yeah, I do that as well. I think that's a creative thing, so he's probably going to go really,
so I'm on the
far.
right track.
Absolutely. Well, listen, mate, all the best to you. All the best to all of your colleagues and your friends, and as part of the Oldham College initiative. If you want to get involved, please do, because you might end up like Rio. You've done MatchDay Live next. What's the next goal for you?
My next goal is hopefully work experience where I'll be either shadowing you or someone that does something similar.
Listen, if you want to shadow me, whenever you want, pal. You can also go on a holiday with Steve Howey. We've promised him that as well.
I'm not going anywhere, but you can go on holiday.
Absolute pleasure, mate, to have you here. Well done on your MatchDay Live debut. Thanks as well, Steve. Let's head down to Paul Molden to go and have a chat with him.
Well, welcome to Pitchside, where I'm joined by a former City striker who I certainly remember very well indeed. Scored a load of goals. I always remember, it's Paul Molden, by the way. I always remember, Paul, before you got in the first team, the muttering around the City fans was this young lad had scored 200-odd goals in about 3 seasons as a kid. You must have had an incredible reputation. Was that already pressure before you started playing?
No, that was kids' football, wasn't it? Kids' football, then we came into the youth team at City, the A-team youth team. And if there was pressure, I never felt it. Yeah.
Tell us about those records, because you ripped up the record books for a while, didn't you?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. Just a kid that enjoyed playing football. I played with my mates from Bolton. We just had a great side. Won most things, won everything to be fair. Just enjoyed playing football and scoring goals, yeah.
Tell us about breaking into the City first team.
That was fantastic, wasn't it? Every kid that was at City at the time everybody wanted to play for the first team, and luckily, you know, I was one of the first to do that, so it was good. Yeah.
And what about City in that period? What? I mean, I remember it well, but for those that don't, tell us about City in that period.
Oh, the club was struggling. A bunch of good lads came along. We didn't stumble along. Ken Barnes, Toni Book, Glyn Pardo, Roy Bailey had a massive hand in bringing us to the club, looking after us, nurturing us, and then we got in the first team, and it was the rest is history, isn't it? Yeah.
And there's a lot of young players who went through the ranks together, weren't there?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, was it 7? We had seven once in a first team game or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, it was something special. And you know, you look at my kids, and we've just been talking about, and you think, you know, they've done well in football, but they've never had that special, you know, special bond that we had at City. Yeah, as kids. Yeah.
I think a few City fans will know of your. Is it your eldest son?
Youngest
Louis,
who's
now a goalkeeper down at Crystal Palace.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Louis. I've got 3 lads, and there's not a goal between them. Yeah, believe that or not. I've got a centre half, a right full back, and a goalkeeper. So how that works, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, Louis doing okay. Yeah.
And there's a big day for one of your other sons, I believe, today as well.
Yes, young Edward. Yes, Edward was apprentice at Bolton, but had to call it a do with injury. So he was kitman at Bolton for 4 years. He's come to City about 3 months ago, and he's doing his first gig with the first team today. So he's quite excited. Yeah.
Is that an emotional thing for you that there is that connection with City?
Yeah. When Louis was at Liverpool as a kid, City wanted him, and as soon as you get that call, it's the Mecca of the North, isn't it? If not Mecca of if not Mecca of England. Yeah.
What have you made of the modern day City then?
What have I made? Modern days, the last couple of months, I think one thing and another, we're struggling a little bit, aren't we? But the modern day City overall, it's absolutely superb, isn't it? You know, who could have thought? Yeah, it's tremendous.
When you look at your days and now, I mean, are you talking about 2 different clubs, 2 different hemispheres?
I think if they kept the badge that they messed about with, I think you could have done. Now they've got the proper City badge back on the shirt. No, it's still the same City. You know, you sit in a crowd, you still look at how they're trying to bring the youth through. No, actually, I think it's just, of course, it's pulls apart, but it's still the same City, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm just going to leave you with one question. When you look back at your time as a player at City, what's the moment? What's the period? What's the thing that stands out most? What do you sort of reflect upon when your slippers and pipe and all that?
As crazy as it, there's two things. As crazy as it sounds, winning the Youth Cup, because we'd never won it before, and them lads we would never have been a good team if we hadn't won that. We nearly won it the year before with a few different lads, but we won it, the Youth Cup in '86. And then for me personally was scoring a goal against Brighton at Main Road, because one thing and another, the manager didn't really fancy me, and I needed a goal, and I was lucky enough to get the goal, and that really stands out in my mind, that particular goal, you know. So yeah.
Well, as someone who remembers you playing very well indeed, Paul, thank you very much for your time.
It's really nice to meet you after so long.
Well,
you know.
yeah,
really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Okay.
That was the thoughts of Paul Molden. Let's go back to FG in the studio.
Thank you so much to both of the guys at pitchside there. Paul Molden, former City and Brighton player as well, and of course Ali doing a great job. Now we're going to talk about the race for the top 4/5, because it is 5 now. Of course, this is a massive game. It feels strange, by the way, just 2 of us being in the studio, doesn't it?
I know, it feels empty.
It feels empty indeed, but we'll be keeping up the vibes all throughout. We might even have a special guest for you later on in the show.
Excellent.
All will be revealed very soon. Top 4 and top 5 race. 1 point separating City and Brighton.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the table. It's obviously very, very close. Chelsea in the mix as well. I do feel as though Nottingham Forest will, even though they've had an incredible season, I think they'll just drop down a little bit.
Do you think they'll still get in the Champions League?
Nottingham Forest? Yeah, I do. I mean, as we said, there's 5 places in the Champions League, and I think City will replace Nottingham Forest. That's who I think it'll end up at.
Okay.
So
you're going with the top 5 of Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea, Forest.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like a safe bet. The teams that stay in that position will get in the top 5. But we've also got the likes of, you know, we just mentioned Forest. They're playing Ipswich away today. Bournemouth are facing Brentford at 5:30. You've got Aston Villa still in there. Do you think because Aston Villa's still in the Champions League that might hinder him a little bit in the league?
Maybe slightly, yeah. I think that, you know, a lot of the players. I mean, it can, because of the win that they've had in the Champions League, it just breeds confidence, and you know, everybody's wanting to be fit, everybody's wanting to be playing, but at the same time, it kind of does take its toll. We've seen that over the last few years with teams getting into the Champions League and then struggling, maybe it's just afterwards or the back end of the season.
Now, Brighton are coming into this game after a last gasp winner against Fulham. It was João Pedro in the 98th minute, and that's given them, of course, the 1 point between us in the league. They'll have a lot of confidence as well based on the previous time they've played Man City. I want to speak to you about the fear factor at the Etihad. It doesn't seem to be as strong anymore. Of course, it's still a difficult place to come. City, you've got the second best home record in the league. Is it a little bit more open here at the Etihad Stadium?
I still think the players are apprehensive about playing here, because I think, you know, players know that if we turn it on, it could be a long afternoon. I think people were even thinking. I was just listening to some City fans on the way down, and they were saying, you know, against Newcastle, they thought, you know, that's a difficult game, and it ended up being very, very comfortable win. And the person that was speaking was basically sort of saying, they just hope it could be something like that today as well. You know, if you get City and City playing well or on song, they're beating any team. It's as simple as that. So Brighton, whilst they're obviously confident because of the results that they've had and the way that they're playing, they know it's going to be a very difficult afternoon.
And then from the perspective of Man City, of course, they'll know about the importance of getting in the Champions League. It seems, after such an amazing few years at the top, it seems unheard of for this club not to be in the Champions League next season.
Yeah, I mean, it would be. I mean, again, I mentioned earlier, I think listening to Pep, and he was just sort of saying to get in the Champions League will be, you know, a fantastic achievement. And I agree. I mean, I don't think anybody's seen the fall off coming. But having said that, I don't think anybody would have seen the amount of injuries in the key places. I mean, we all know Pep doesn't have huge squads. He just has a quality squad. But the amount of injuries has cost the team daily. So, of course, there has been a lot of sort of more defeats than you would expect. But at the same time, you know, I think it's absolutely imperative, and it would be a good season that they do get in the Champions League.
Yeah, absolutely, it would be a good season indeed. I mean, speaking of good, what about our new January signings? We'll start with Kushinov. He has been absolutely brilliant. We saw probably, hopefully, the worst of him in the first 10 minutes against Chelsea for a young man to have that moment of madness, but the way he has recovered, and you could argue he's super important to the starting lineup now. Yeah,
I totally agree. I think, you know, it's basically, when you sign for a new team, it's the start is what you dread. That's a nightmare when you're lying in bed thinking, I hope this never happens. And I mean, it wasn't horrendous. Don't get me wrong. He just didn't put enough on the ball to get it back to the goalkeeper, and probably wasn't enough on the ball to get it back to the goalkeeper. But the way that he's performed afterwards has been absolutely incredible. You know, quick. He's aggressive in the challenge. You know, very, very good on the ball. Yeah, I mean, for such a young lad as well, he's got a fantastic career ahead of him. Stays fit.
What about Nico as well? He stepped into that midfield. Of course, we're missing Rodri for the season. It's been like pretty obvious to everyone that we've needed someone in that position. He's come in and he seems to have settled really well, and he's made a difference.
Yeah, looks comfortable, looks composed. You know, things were mentioned about and doing the comparison between him and Rodri, and he's rightly saying, "Come out, you know, I'm my own player. I'm not Rodri," and Rodri would be sort of, well, he is Rodri. But yeah, very good. Obviously got the goal against was it the Champions League against Real Madrid? Was it when he scored the goal in the Champions League? Did he not get one there? I'm sure he did.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, a player that likes to keep things moving, keep things you know, ticking along. He has that little bit of protection as well in front of the back four. But yeah, very, very intelligent, clever player.
Yeah, well, listen, we're gonna head back to pitchside now because we've got another very, very special guest. We're joined by a man who's managed both sides, Brian Horton.
Yeah, welcome to pitchside, where with me is a former City manager who is incredibly popular whenever he comes to the Etihad Stadium, Brian Horton. Brian, you were involved in so many clubs, but you've got incredible affection here. Why do you think it is the way it is with the City fans?
I think they enjoyed the football I played, if the older ones can remember that, and the things I do for City, so I never ever knock them. which is easy to do, particularly in today's modern world, which I would never do. And it's just such a fantastic club. They look after us unbelievable. So why should I ever knock what they do? Love the football they've played. Pep's been unbelievable. And now he's getting a bit of criticism because, you know, they're not winning the league, they're not winning the Champions League. Can't keep winning everything, can you? Well, I suppose he'd like to, but 4 on the trot, the treble, he's been magnificent.
Do you see this as a transitional year then?
Yeah, big time. If he'd have changed what he's doing now, if he'd have changed it last summer, and they're doing what they're doing now, everybody said he changed it too early. Because he didn't, and now as a transitional period, it's the right thing to do. He let it go, and he chose to let them say, can we do it again? Obviously, they faltered a little bit. Some of the players had lots of injuries as well, by the way. I know all the clubs have had lots of injuries, but he'll turn it round. Don't worry about that.
Well, you played for many years at the highest level. You managed at the highest level for many years. Is there an inevitability that there has to be a cycle in football, that this has to happen at some point?
Well, nobody's ever done what they've done. So a cycle is there. They've achieved what they set out to do. But you can't continue doing that, can you? Somewhere along the line, with all the top clubs. But to say the Champions League, now all the top clubs are in there, you know, it's inevitable that you're going to lose one. Premier League, 4 spins, 4 times on the spin. Incredible. It's absolutely amazing what they've done. And they'll come back again, let me tell you. They'll come back again.
What about today? How do you see that?
I can't win on this one, can I? I can't win because...
Foot in both camps.
Yeah, I had 5, 76 to 81, where I captained Brighton from the 3rd division to the 2nd to the top division for the first time in the club's history. Incredible times from our boss Alan Mullery, who was fantastic. Just a wonderful football club. I didn't have the choice when I left Port Vale to go there for 30 grand, but apparently Crystal Palace were informing me because Terry Venables had sent a message. We were playing them on the Tuesday night before the deadline day, and I got a message saying don't sign for anybody. I didn't know I was going till after the game. But they'd done the deal, 30 grand to Brighton, so I was in a chauffeured limousine down to Brighton, met Peter Taylor, signed the next day. People said, why are you going there? It's not a football place. We got 34,000 the night we got promotion. It's not a football place. And then obviously, as I've said, we went to the 2nd and then to the top. And then I went back to manage for 1 season, just a bit more than a season. They're playing at Gillingham. It couldn't have been any tougher. The fans, they've taken 4,000 or 5,000 from Brighton to Gillingham. M23, it's crazy. But I got them in the playoffs, and when they were in the playoffs, Port Vale came calling, and it was a hard one not to do. Had they been, if they'd had Tony Bloom as my owner, I don't think I'd have been leaving with all the money he's produced. And having a winner yesterday 100 to 1 at Cheltenham. I'm looking forward to seeing him today, because the Blooms were a massive part of my life as well, because his granddad was my vice chairman when I was a player there. So the Bloom family has been, since 1976, I've known them well, you know.
So the ideal scenario for you, maybe a draw today and both of them in the top 5, which looks as though it's going to be enough for the Champions League.
That would probably be the ideal thing. Listen, I want City to get in the Champions League, and I want Brighton now, who are on a good run, by the way. The young manager's done a great job. He's got them on the front foot. I love Mitoma. They've got some good players, and they've turned it around and done great. It should be, and hopefully, a great game of football. May the best side win. And as you say, a draw for me might be the right result, but I just hope it's a good game of football, which I think it will be.
It's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks for your time, Brian.
Thank you.
Brian Horton, fantastic. Let's go back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure it is to see Brian Horton
Absolutely.
looking so well. We're heading towards kick-off. The atmosphere's building here at the City in the Community Etihad Stadium. And let's reveal to you that team news again for the game to take on Brighton. In goal is Stefan Ortega, and then it's Rico Lewis, Kushanov, and our captain, Ruben Diaz, Josko Vardiol, Nico, Ilkay Gundogan, Savinho, Marmoush, Doku, and Erling Haaland. Let's start, when we go into our final thoughts, to talk about the front three. It's a very exciting front three. Do you think Doku will be on the right side here, potentially, Marmoush on the left? Or do you think it could be even 2 potentially up front, and then Savinho and...
Well, I think...
Or do you think it'll be Marmoush in the midfield?
In all fairness, as we know, they'll just rotate anyway. I mean, they might start that way, but I don't think they'll stay that way. You'll see Marmoush in particular, he'll just drift from side to side, particularly kind of on the left. we all know he's one of these players that likes to come in and have a shot from distance. But yeah, I mean, I think with the forward line, it's a forward line which it's direct, it's got pace, it just carries a threat. So that'll be a big one for the Brighton manager to be getting these players about, just trying to keep them as occupied as possible, because you know, once they get into full flow, then they're going to cause you all kinds of problems.
And of course, to start for Stefan Ortega, no Edison today, and we're told he's not fully fit, but what a goalkeeper Stefan Ortega is. Just been called up for the national team as well, for the German team as well, but he's starting the game, and we're in safe hands there, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, again, a goalkeeper at any other club, he starts. You know, he's that good, and every time he has come in, he's never ever let the team down. His distribution's very, very good. You know, great hands, comfortable on the ball. Whilst I've just said about distribution, but yeah, I mean, a top goalkeeper. If he goes to any other club, and I'm talking about any other, well, you know, you look at Liverpool with Alisson, I think he gets in any other team.
Well, we're heading down in a minute to pitchside, but before we do, I need a score prediction from you. Right. How do you see today's game?
Well, I went with 3-1 for the women in the cup game, the final. So I'm going to stick with 3-1. So I think it's going to be 3-1.
3-1 as well. Well, let's hope for a more positive result here at the Etihad Stadium. Of course, our women's team did so well, but unfortunately just lost out to Chelsea in that final. I mean, they were brilliant as well.
Yeah, they were excellent.
They were absolutely fantastic. But we're here at the City in the Community Etihad Stadium. It's a very special day because it's a takeover of City in the Community. Before we head down to Ali Mann and Andy Morrison, here's the latest video from our sponsor, Asahi. Asahi Superdry takes you on a journey through Tokyo to celebrate their partnership with Manchester City and this season's training kit. We're inviting fans led by curiosity to discover Tokyo's unique tales, phrases and individuals, all through the eyes of the training kit.
The ZA of Tokyo? Sure, let's go. Z, Zugahidemo. Y is for you because there's only one. X, check please. W is for wonder. V is valiance. U, uniform, unified, Uchage Hanabi. T is for Takashi Ogami. S, silver. R is for reinvention. Q, we are quietly confident. P, precision. O, we go for one cup. N, we're those noisy neighbors. M, meticulous, measured, mastered. L is for those late nights with friends or strangers. K is kawaii. Ah, that's cute. J, Junin, Toiro. I is for intrigue. H is for Harajuku, the place to be yourself. G is to be gifted. F, 不可能を可能にするのは努力だ. Always express yourself. D is for dedication. C is to be carefree. B is for beer. And A for the best one there is. Asahi Super Dry.
A very warm welcome to the City in the Community Etihad Stadium for what promises to be a very entertaining duel. And our monitor has just shown us a picture of Edison, who sadly is missing out today, not fully fit. And I will go on to the team changes in a few minutes' time. Well, the ever-intriguing and unpredictable race to the top four seems to take on a new twist week on week. And this afternoon, City have the opportunity to return to that top four if they can beat another contender, Brighton, at the Etihad Stadium this afternoon. The Blues reside in fifth, the visitors just a point behind but in seventh, confirming the significance of this potentially pivotal fixture. It is the final match before the international break, and if City can grab all 3 points, there's a very good chance that they will go into that fortnight layoff cemented in fourth, with Chelsea facing Arsenal this weekend. Well, the Blues were edged out last Saturday in a game with very few chances against Nottingham Forest, but there were plenty of positives to make us feel as though it